Welcome to Compression, the quest to $100 million in just 1 year. Join me, your host, Logan Freeman, in this one-of-a-kind interactive podcast experience where I am on a quest to compress 3 years of achievement and production into 12 months. And no, the answer is not to just work harder. I'm bringing you not only ideas and concepts that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're also effective at the applied level. Look, guys, knowledge is not power. It is potential power. Knowledge plus massive strategic action equals power. We're talking about strategy, systems, accountability, all in real time. This is Compression. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Compression Podcast. I want to continue the conversation Jerome and I were just having off line here. And the reason being is this was a lesson that I had to learn very hard early on. And he said, you know, you got the new mic, you got your video game going, you know, you got the resource and you don't spare any expense when it comes to that. Well, here's the thing. When I met my wife who, well, let me step back. I was a bargain hunter my whole life, okay? Rubbing pennies together to make it happen. And when I started making money and having bills and things like that, I was always, you know, shopping still at Kohl's and trying to get the coupons and do all the stuff. And I would start buying stuff offline and it would just break, you know, two months later. And I'd have to go buy the original thing. And so now I've got 150% of what I would have spent if I would have just spent the right amount up front. And I remember Zig Ziglar saying there's a difference between the price and the cost. And he has an incredible example he gives of a bicycle. And you know how a salesman was to sell a bike. And he said, look, yeah, I know that the price is more expensive than the Walmart bike down the road. But what I will tell you is that, you know, in a year, you're going to have to replace that tire. You're going to have to replace those bearings. You're going to have to replace those spokes. Your handlebars might be worn out. And so then you're going to be, you know, adding all of these things to this bike. But if you just buy this one that costs a little bit more, this thing's guaranteed to last you 5 years. And I that tweak just went off in my head when I met Taylor because she said, stop buying all this cheap crap and start buying the right stuff. And so I think that's a pretty big analogy. Now in business, instead of paying for the cheap alternative, we go ahead and level up and pay the right resource so we can do the job the first time. I remember back when I was building walls and pouring concrete, my mentor who took me under his wing and I was running a crew naturally, that just kind of happened, you know, out of all the football players, Logan's running the crew pouring 100 yards of concrete a day, whatever it was. I can't remember, but he said, hey, when you're building walls, you got to measure twice and cut once. Well, I had to measure 5 times and cut twice, but I still eliminated some of those cuts that I would have had to make, you know, if I wouldn't have measured all of those times. So I think it's a big lesson that you just pulled out of me, Jerome, with one sentence that reminds me that, hey, if you're going to do something, try to do it right and get the right tools and resources around you so you can do it, man.
Having the right tools is the game changer. And I don't think many people understand. It's funny. I was having this conversation last night. Had somebody reach out. I was like, hey, I'd like to use your car in a video that I'm doing. I said, okay, I'll come by and, you know, help you out. And this was the second day in a row they said it. It's like, man, I just can't get everybody on the same page. He said, even though I'm paying folks, they are not showing up for me the way I need them to show up. And I said, well, you know, it's usually more expensive, or at least it feels more expensive up front to pay a professional to get the thing done. But overall, you come out cheaper in the long run when you make that investment. Now, the caveat here is there's a lot of people who are selling snake oil and they've got great marketing, baby. Yeah. And you have to be able to discern true value from a great pitch.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. All right. Well, we just kind of were going off the cuff there. Jerome, I have to ask, man, you're dressed up today. So what's going on in your world, brother?
Uh all of my red pill shirts are dirty.
There you
I could
go.
get a new one out the box,
Yep.
but I nah.
It's
I
nice
just
to see you
grabbed
in
this one.
something other than the red pill shirt, man. That's good. You do have other clothes. I swear.
I've
You know,
got a closet full of clothes. I
there we
got
go.
suits. I got all this stuff. I used to, in my former life, I was called the bow tie bandit. I'd show up
Oh,
in a fresh suit with the bow tie and the shoes, and we'd run in and we'd get the money back and run back out because that's what consulting was.
yep. Yep. I totally get that. Well, we're going to get into our regular programming here, and I'm, going to give everybody an update. We're at $63.2 million on the compression goal of 100 million. So 63.2, my man. We are tracking really well right now, and I've got another couple closings coming up here. Actually, going to show up in one of the wins today. I'll talk about one of the most recent closings that we're doing today, actually, which is very exciting. But 63.2 million. When I sat down to prep myself for today's episode, and I thought, what do I want people to get out of today's show? I thought about this. What is the equation that I have been applying to my life and to my business over the last month? And I know we did a month recap. I appreciate that. That's going to be coming out soon. Or actually, it's probably already out if you're listening to this show. So make sure to go check that one out. But it was this. It was leverage plus sustainability equals long-term success. And I'm going to talk about some things this week that I have been applying to my life that have allowed me to sustain kind of the levels that I'm at. And here's the thing. I'm in the grind mode right now. It's, it is completely me pouring into my employees, and we are in a very interesting time in our business because of the cycle that we're at in the real estate world in Kansas City market. We've seen a massive shift in Kansas City and a big influx of big dollars. I'm not talking 1031 exchange buyers. I'm talking big dollars. And that's, taking toll on our ability to acquire new properties. And so I'm going to talk about that. But when I thought about this, it was leverage through the employees, through the technology, through capital, and then the sustainability, which is finding an outlet for your competitive drive and be able to swing in and swing out. And I'm going to talk about this too, but I'm a guy that gets obsessed with things. And right now I'm definitely obsessed with golf. If you follow me on LinkedIn, every week there's a new golf post, of what's going on. But I've thought a lot about this, and I'm not just playing golf to waste time. And I'm going to talk about how I'm making golf be a profit-producing activity in today's episode, my man. But Jerome, before we jump into all of the wins, losses, learnings, and some of those things I just talked about, I wanted to just ask you a question from the outsider's perspective, looking in to Logan's life on a weekly basis through all of our text messages. Give us an update on how this guy over here on this side of the video in Missouri is doing from your perspective, man. What are you seeing, and what am I not seeing that's going on in my life right now?
So at the highest level, you're a sponge, right? I don't know anybody who has capacity to absorb as much as you do. And that was the thing that I think was most interesting in the early parts of the beginning of compression, right? So
Yeah.
you were already doing your work. You had the system that you created over the last 6, 7, 8 years. When you made the transformation from an NFL football player to somebody in business, from 300 pounds to something less, to, I mean, we keep going down the list, from a guy living in a roach infested apartment to someone who has an amazing home with
Yep.
the wife and beautiful kids who would never even imagine going to that place, right?
Sure.
And so it's really exciting to see the transformation where And you're seeing this in golf. Since you just talked about golf, let's
Yep.
talk about golf some more. You make small tweaks to your swing and you get very drastic results.
Yep.
Right? You can brute force it, you can make it go, or you can use technique. And what I see, I think most, or at least what I'm most proud about, is you've set your priorities, and the amount of conflict that you have when something tries to compete for the resources that you've decided to allocate to your priorities, I see that vanishing.
Yep.
I see the anxiety going away. And then on the other side of that, there's this level of confidence, this
Sure.
knowing instead of believing. And I think that piece is so magical.
Mhm.
And, you know, that does so much more for the quality of life than the money that'll
Yep.
be made out of this year ever will. And those are the things that you can reapply. And then I guess just the last piece of it is when you show up and do the work, the results are imminent.
Yeah.
And there's no question that you're willing to show up and do the work and make the adjustments on the things in order to get that rest of the squeeze out of the orange.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You know, you're leaving some on the table. It's like, it's good enough. If I could just get one more squeeze to get just that out of all of these other oranges, then I got a whole nother pitcher I can drink from. And so, you know, I think you were getting a little low towards the end of last year. There was anxiety, there was stress. It gotten bigger than you, and you had to rely on other people in a way that you hadn't had to in the past, because before you could brute force it. And talking about delegation and all the tools that, you know, we've kind of went through, and you've been able to embrace the success.
Yeah.
Actually have a grateful nature about it instead of, I got to move on to the next thing because I'm a machine.
That's right.
And from a quality of life standpoint, I just don't know what else you can get. So
yes,
I'm excited. I don't think you're missing anything. And if you are, it's not something that's preventing you from moving forward. And
right.
so, and I mean, that's why I'm on your 6, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to let you miss anything.
Yeah.
It's going to prevent you from getting the things that you want most.
Well, I got the goosebumps there at the beginning of what you were saying, because the transformation of the anxiety piece, you know, if you are a business owner, if you are going to go do something on your own, and you are the person that the buck stops with and it starts with, you know, that can create a lot of negative emotions if you do not know how to deal with it, but also if you cannot get through it. And that is why 9 out of 10 small businesses fail. Okay. And well, there's a lot of reasons, but that's a main driver, is people cannot sustain that level of emotional stress and anxiety and adversity on a regular basis. And, you know, when Brian Adams came to town and just said, hey, his mentor told him, you just got to stay in the game longer than most people. Yes, that's a big piece of it. Just, you know, showing up is half the battle. Tim Grover would say, no, showing up to win is the only battle. And so, yes, showing up is important, but, and, you know, doing the work is important, but you also have to have a level of, and a standard that you will not accept mediocrity in your business. And so where the anxiety, now that I reflect back and look, came from was saying, hey, Logan's not controlling everything now. And so I have to rely on other people. And so I have one of two options. I can, you know, die by the blade and be a control freak, or I can get the people that I'm working with to raise their standards and only bring people into our business that are bought into those standards and keeping those folks accountable. And so that was such a big monster for me, you know, thinking about that last November and December, that it just made me so anxious. And then, you know, frankly, it just happened, right? I mean, we had no choice. And so I said, okay, now I got to pour back into this. and to these people and make sure that we're doing this right. And what stuck with me was Mark Rubio Acosta, when he said something along the lines of, when you're bringing people on and applying leverage, and maybe it was Naval Ravikant, you're going to spend 150% more time up front to get that task done right the first time, but you're never going to have to go back and touch that ever again. And that was the light bulb moment for me was, okay, yeah, sure. I don't want to do this right now and pour into these people, but if I do it the right way for 30 days, for the next 10 years, I'm not going to have to worry about this being done. And we are standardizing everything and we're processing everything. And there's a system now. And I'm seeing that, happen. Sure. We got a huge payroll. I mean, I think to the tunes of, upwards of $50,000 a month. And I'm not sure that even counts the principals, salaries. And so, that's a big monstrous number. But when I see things that are happening, when I'm not working in the business, I'm seeing business plans being implemented. I'm seeing financial controls taken care of. Investor communication is at a better spot than it ever has been. And we're looking at more deals and we're taking deals full cycle. I can't do that all. Parker can't do that all. Corey can't do that all. And so if we want to be true operators and private equity guys in this space, this is what you have to go through. And so that kind of challenge back in November, December, and still going through it, obviously, but the challenge of just getting my head wrapped around, this is what we have to do to take the next step. That was a huge, challenge for me to go through those couple months. And obviously launching this podcast and other things that we've, got going on as well, kind of added to the fire, but I would not have been able to get through that if I would not have been as reflective as I was with you on this show, going through that on a weekly basis. I just need to make that a very clear understanding for people that are listening. And I recently, my talk tracks have changed on podcasts because I'm no longer the 1031 exchange guy that's just out there chasing transactions. I'm no longer, the newbie in this field, just out here trying to figure it out. Now people are asking, how are you building teams? How are you getting people on board with what you're doing? How are you attracting these things towards your company? And, a part of it is accepting the challenge of saying, okay, we got to have more advocates for FTW and for our business out there in the workplace going on a regular basis. And so, big, huge win, obviously, over the last 7-8 months. And one that I'm still learning, especially because our marketing director just started and she, filters right up to me. But so many things I was missing on the marketing side. I cannot believe that I was able to white knuckle us to where we are right now, man. I mean, just holding on for dear life, just squeezing everything that I could out of it. And, I think that's what I was feeling back in March of this year, was like, oh my God, man, I can't do this. This is not sustainable. The health, the everything, if anybody can do it, I can push through it. But I just saw, thinking long-term, just like we do in real estate, it's not, hey, we're trying to get out of this thing in 2 years. This is a 5-10 year deal. Same thing with this business. You got to be thinking about it that way and build something that will support not just where you're at now, but where you're going. And that hurts in the short term, but it'll keep you sustainable. And that's the word that keeps, popping into my head, is leverage plus sustainability equals long-term success. And you just got to stay in the game and elevate your standards and let people, work towards your standards for them. And they need to be very clear as well. So all of those things, man, I appreciate that insight. Were, huge learnings for me over the last 6 or 7 months. And I love that you text me and said, hey man, these new podcasts out, this is a new guy, talking on these shows, and everybody wants to still hear the story, how you got started. Sure. I abbreviate that a little bit, but there's some stories inside of that. There's some stories with what we're going through right now that I'm trying to pull out, because I think that's what sticks with people. And, I haven't been studying story necessarily. I've just tried to say, look, where is my head at right now? And what am I focusing on? It's a lot different than it was 3-4 years ago when I was starting out the podcast realm. And, I think people are getting different tidbits out of there. And what I want investors, what I want vendors, what I want partners to hear me saying, and what you listeners that are listening to this show right now, is if you continue to evolve, if you continue to level up, you're not going to be talking about the same thing that you were. If you're looking behind me right now, there's books here, there's books here, and there's books here. I'm trying to get to that top level. I'm somewhere around here, but guess what? There's a level underneath this one that you can't even see right now. And that's where I was 4 years ago, and I'm torn because I hear a lot of people say you got to fake it till you make it. And if that statement is in regards to your mentality and you have to fake it in regards to making it with your mentality, then I guess that's okay for a certain period of time. But you cannot fake it in this business at the level that we are trying to get to at all. Your closet, your demons will be pulled out of you, and people will see those very quickly. And so as you continue to level up to the next stage, you're not faking anything. You're just being real and authentic. And if you're learning and iterating and pivoting, people will hear that in your communication. And so that's a big piece of what we've been going through as well, Jerome.
Clarity, my friend. So I gotta ask, you haven't told me this, but I think I know the answer. Did she say, how did you do all this by yourself yet?
Did I say how?
Did she? When she sees all the stuff that's out there, when she sees the expectations that you have for her, did she ask you how all this content was getting produced yet?
No. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, she was like, holy cow, you have just bootstrap this thing and so much more about marketing. And she asked me, yes, she did. The answer is yes. Now that I think back in our first meeting, she goes, how the heck did you get to this point? And I said, look, I read these 5 books. And now I remember what you're saying. So I read these 5 books and I applied these technologies and I engaged with this firm who also pushed me very hard to do these things. And I stayed consistent with it. But, even regarding, Active Campaign and all of these different technologies that we've got, she's like, how did you draft these emails by yourself and write this stuff? I said, I pulled it straight out of a book. I pulled it straight out of somebody else's. I modeled what was working for other people and then spent hours in the cave, just, getting it done. And she's like, my gosh. And then this was a second question. Where's the process for this? And I looked at her and I said, there is no process. It's right here. She goes, we can't do that. Not everybody's operating at that level, man. We cannot do that anymore. And so we've made some big changes on the marketing side. Even if you guys are on the list, you'll see the emails that came out already starting to look different, more professional, looking great, crisp. Yeah. Crisp. So, but yeah, at one point she was just kind of saying, can we just pause for a second and say, how the heck did you do all of this? And I said, well, I spent a lot of time reading and just implementing and trying to do the best that I could. And I thought it was hilarious that she was, we gotta get a process around this because your brain is operating at that level and nobody else is in that space but you. And so we got to get this down on paper. And so that's what I really respect about Allison is she's taking everything out of this brain, putting it into a process so we can repeat faster, better, and iterate whenever we need to, man.
Love it. Love it. It's always fun when you bring the new person on and you're like, yeah, how'd you do that?
Yep.
Like, did it.
Well, let's jump into some of the wins, man, from this past week. When I looked at the blank page this morning, I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to write down. Then I started writing and I was like, whoa, okay. Now I see where it's at. So obviously onboarding our marketing director, huge win, guys. I mean, just big things to come on that front. A lot of fun, exciting activities and new marketing that will be coming out from that front. We got our pay-per-click advertising launched on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm seeing leads come in. I don't know what to do with them yet. I got to figure that out, but the clicks are happening, and I haven't checked the level of the people that are coming through, but I'm excited to dive in that with Allison next week. So that was a big initiative for us, getting some more investors coming into the pipeline. And here's the thing with the investor piece. Like, I could go get capital from people that want to do deals with FTW and take a portion of our portion of the deal. That is out there. I can get it. I know 20 guys that I could call and would be just so happy to do that. What I'm challenging myself is to not rely on that. And that's the big goal, is to be able to never worry about a capital raise and where we're at with that. So candidly, I'll give you guys, we have about 1,500 people on our email list. My goal is to get that to 10,000 by the end of the year, not by people that are just, hey, I would like to know what you guys are doing. It's people are, hey, I'm interested in investing in real estate and I want to look at your project. So huge, audacious goal there. I've got some different ideas about how to get there. And I know some of my mentors are somewhere around the 7,500 to 8,500 people on their list. And so I've got a little bit of a competitive edge coming out saying, all right, how do I get 10,000 qualified accredited investor leads looking at our deals on a regular basis? So I love marketing, because if you do it the right way, there are things that you can track and there's measurables that you can see if you keep the transparency in that process together. Another big win, we sold a building. I mean, we sold our first project. Today, we're closing on a first deal, full cycle project as real estate investors. And, when you go through all these acquisitions, it's like, oh man, really cool to buy all this stuff. But it's really interesting to see everything come together, faster than you think it was, and to get a deal over the finish line. So fingers crossed, it's 12:30 right now. By 3:30, we'll be closed and done with that deal and deliver a 50% IRR to our investors. So very stoked about that. That's a huge win, and have already identified the property to 1031 exchange into. And so that's a whole nother bucket to talk about, but selling a deal, which is really, really exciting for me. And we got some more of those coming up here very soon. Okay, update on the weight. I didn't text you this, I don't think, Jerome, but I was down to 272.8 on Monday, down from 285 at the doctor's office a couple of weeks ago, guys. And I think that doctor's office scale was a little bit inflated. I had my clothes on. But anyways, at the end of the day, I'm down at 270.8. I'm tracking in the right direction. Hopefully after this week, I'm not adding weight, but hey, I've got a good system in place for that right now.
Be careful with your celebration for selling the project.
Yes. Here's a good one, man. I've got a great pulse of not just the Kansas City market, but the Midwest multifamily market. I think I have an inside track to what's going on in the multifamily market in regards to where pricing is, what terms are, what people are expecting to sell at, what people are expecting to buy at. And I've got this insider information. What I love about real estate, I heard somebody say this on a podcast the other day, is you get to have insider information in the real estate world. You cannot do that in the stock market, okay? Insider trading is illegal in the stock market. All we do as real estate sponsors is insider trading. We're making calculated bets on risk based on knowledge that other people do not have. And with putting out over $145 million in offers in the last 2.5 weeks, I have a really good pulse of what's going on in Kansas City, Oklahoma, Northwest Arkansas, the Quad Cities, and in Nebraska. And I'm able to shift where our focus is going. And so a huge win is understanding that we bought deals, 600 units last year at $50,000 a unit in one submarket in Kansas City. Across the street, a deal just traded at $117,000. It was a 20-day close and $3 million hard earnest money deposit, no carve-outs day one. I know that probably sounds like Rambo Jambo, but what I want you guys to understand is this. If somebody puts up $3 million of hard earnest money day one, that means they don't even require the seller to provide them title to a $35 million property. Not even title. I'm going to say that again. You will not have assurance that you're going to get a clean title before you put $3 million worth of non-refundable earnest money deposit. That's happening in multiple markets, but Kansas City is one that is very, very hot and competitive right now. So we're shifting focus. We're staying true to our underwriting, building relationships with the brokers, but we will not do that. We absolutely will not subject ourselves to that type of risk. So huge win is understanding and having a feeling of where all these different markets are and where the opportunity lies. And that's why you have to find boots on the ground and sponsors who are doing what I'm doing on a regular basis to make offers with. Okay, we've got this one right here, man. Pouring into the employees. Got the leverage. That's huge, man. It's absolutely huge. I'm feeling really good about what we've got going on at FTW in regards to my time getting allocated to different things. And it's not quite there yet, but I'm working on it. The last win that I'm going to say is this. All right. We had a big office project. Okay. We're multifamily guys, true and true. We had a big office project. It's our office. We are officing out of it. But in 7 days, I was able to raise $1.2 million from our investors to close a 40,000 square foot office building in Kansas City. And that is a major win because it said, hey, our investors believe in you as sponsors, what you're doing in your market, and we will go to new asset classes with you. I was a little bit concerned about that. Obviously, with us being in there, with our other partners on the deal, being tenants in the building, it's a little bit different, but a huge win to be able to get that over the finish line last Friday. And now we own 40,000 square feet that we paid a very low price for on the streetcar. And in 4 years, when that's done, I am super stoked to see what happens to lease rates and that building. It's a solid building. It's a pretty building. Development happening all around it. And we've got a home for FTW, and we're building out our own private club in the basement, which is super exciting for us as well to expand our network in Midtown and be in the forefront of a lot of development going on in Kansas City. So huge move, big win, 40,000 square feet office building. It is under our management now, and very excited about that. So those are the wins, man. Anything that stood out to you, brother?
You said 1.7?
1.2.
1.2? How much money did you raise 2 years ago?
Oh, man. Probably 1.2 the whole year. Probably 1.2 the whole year. And that was hard. That was very hard. Very hard.
I'm done.
Yeah. Completely different place, man. Completely different place on that. And I want to give a shout out to our early investors that really believed in us and on those deals that we are selling. We're definitely doubling their money, which is pretty exciting, or damn near close to doubling their money in some of those deals. So losses, man, let's move on to the losses. So I rehashed this, and this week I had at least one alcoholic drink every night. And so with that being said, my sleep has been terrible this week, and my body battery has been super low this week, which then has also domino effect into me sleeping in until 4:30 and not getting up at 4 and delaying all the things, which then dominoed for me not getting into my books as much as I would like to. So what the loss is here is one decision, even one glass of wine with my father-in-law that was over here, even one drink, then makes me not have good sleep, which then makes me tired when I wake up, which then puts me delayed because I sleep in a little bit, which then I don't get into my reading, which then I don't get into my journaling as much. So it's just a domino effect. And I saw exactly what happened this week, and I didn't even realize, what was going on. I just woke up today and was like, man, my body battery hasn't been above 35 any morning, and that's not good. I need that thing to be up at 85, 95 every single day. So big loss there. I will fix that.
What you going to do?
I will fix that. I will stop drinking. Yeah, it's very easy. I did it earlier here's the thing too. It's like this week we had something every single evening. We had something going on every single evening, but at the end of the day, I don't need to have a drink every single evening. And I know some people are like, hey, one glass of wine is fine for you. Not for me. Not for me. It doesn't work.
It's not peak performance. You're not a performer when you do it.
So I got to white knuckle myself every single day to get jacked up and to do it. And but then I'm not the best husband, and I'm not the best father, and then I'm not the best person because I don't feel as inspired. So domino effect. I got to the root cause. I know exactly what I need to do, and I'm going to fix that next week. So stay tuned on that front. Shouldn't be a hard fix for me. I just let that kind of get away from me a little bit this week. Other thing that's got away from me, and this is probably a more concerning, not more concerning, but it's a business concern for me, is my emails piling up. I got to get a solution, and I get through the emails that need to be responded to, but there's so many. I think I'm at 179 in my inbox right now, and I know 65% of those are things that need to get responded to. And so then I've got this frog that keeps getting bigger into a toad, and now he's into a bullfrog, and he's just sitting here ribbiting at me, ribbit, email. And I've let that get to a point where it's not good, but it's also a domino effect from me not getting up early enough to respond to certain things as well, because I did implement a process that's been super successful for me, which has been do not live in your email all day long. Okay, good. That's good. But if nobody's managing it and you don't have a process to get through it, and you sleep in because you're tired because you had alcohol every single night, guess what? That's a problem. That's a short-term problem. The long-term problem is I need somebody to help manage this. And so we've got a job description out. I'm proud to announce we're going to be looking for some awesome talent in regards to investor relations. So we have over 600 folks that have either invested in our projects, looking at our projects on a regular basis. And a lot of people reach out to me on a regular basis. And Allison's doing a good job on the marketing side because I get a lot of email and stuff with press releases and different interviews, and she's taking that off my plate. But we're going to bring in somebody that has some good talent in regards to investor relations. And I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for me to get some email support and get out of doing all of those responses. So I do have a fix for that. Yeah, man. So that was the main loss, I think, from this week. It all really stemmed from having a drink, not getting the sleep that I need, and then being tired. So what I wanted to do next, if there's nothing to add on that, was talk about one main learning. And I had a lot of learnings, but I dialed it down to this. And this is going to be a little bit longer, but bear with me. To stay sustainable, you have to want to get up. You have to want to grind it out. The only way to want to do this is to enjoy it. And joy is an inspired happiness. Inspired means in spirit, living in spirit. That is all to say that you must build things into your life that you love and that you want to do on a regular basis. And that might sound like common sense, but it's not common practice. Might sound like common sense, but it's not common practice. And so I am not willing to say, when this happens, when that person joins, when we accomplish this, I'm going to feel joy. I have made a choice for myself, for our family, to make life our playground every single day. Meaning nobody can put their thumb on me, and especially me. And I'm really targeting myself on that front. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to put limitations on things that I want to achieve in regards to the way I want to live or feel on a regular basis. And that's not in regards to material things. This is a state of being that I'm referring to. And the state of being is inspired. And if you are inspired, you are living in spirit, you want to do the things on a regular basis. And I'm not willing to say, hey, when we do this, when the $100 million mark gets checked off, I'm going to allow myself to do that. So you have to build certain things, certain priorities, certain feelings. You have to make a new rule for yourself that says every day I'm going to feel that. And that 100 million is going to be the result of every single day compounded. And I know that sounds like common sense, but when you get into the grind and you get into doing this on a regular basis, it's not common practice. And that's what I'm after. And that's what I'm trying to continue to implement into my daily vision for each and every single day. And so with that, I have made every day fun. Something is happening that is fun for Logan. And it's a hard shift, guys. I mean, 2.5 hours ago, I was getting lessons to play golf. And in an hour and a half, I'm going to go play maybe 15 holes. I'm going to do that. And here's the thing. I look back with what I produced this week, and I put a dollar amount on that exact activities that I did. I mapped that out, and I said, you did it this week. You did it this week. And you created what you needed to be successful. Now it's time to go do something that you love, or you're loving right now, at least, to enjoy that moment and to enjoy that. So it's the things like we did last Friday with Isabella. It's taking Oceans of Fun a Friday and going to Oceans of Fun, the water park. It's taking Taylor out to dinner to a new place last night. It's playing golf. It's spending time reading. It's all of these different things. And each day, I can't do every single one of them each day, but I'm making sure that every day there's some little highlight for me that I can look forward to, I can enjoy, and I can live in spirit. And guys, that alone, the last 2 weeks, has given me a new level of inspiration that then looks like on the outside motivation. And you know what? I'm really excited to say that that's working out really well. I just received a text message from Taylor, and she says, "Really, comma, you golfed every week, every day this week." Well, baby, if you're listening on the other end over there, it's because I could this week. Okay. All right. How about that? Anyways, I think that's really funny. I look at my schedule next week. There's no way I'm doing it every week next week. But that was the big learning, was you got to be able to build those things into your routine, into your schedule, and you can't feel bad about them. And when you apply leverage the right way through people, capital, and technology, you don't have to wait when you achieve something to be able to feel that sort of joy and fulfillment, Jerome. And that's a new level of enlightenment.
A year ago, you wouldn't have done that. A year ago, you wouldn't have done that.
Not even close.
You wouldn't even celebrate closing the day. You wouldn't celebrate the exit.
Not even close. And when I knew we were through due diligence on the closing for this deal that we're selling, the first email I sent to the team was, we have to celebrate this, period. Get it on the calendar, period. And so I think it's important to hear that. And I think it's important to build that, because yeah, sure, you can go out there and grind and do it every single day, but you won't be here 7, 8 years from now doing the same thing. It's just burnout. It's just all there is to it. There's so many different stories about that. And at the end of the day, it is what it is in regards to, being able to find out what that is for yourself. It could be just 30 minutes to yourself. It doesn't have to be playing golf. It can be anything. It could be taking a ride in a car. It could be do any of those things, man. I tell you what, it's been a game changer for me. So that's my learning for the week, man, that I wanted to pass along to everybody.
Yeah, I love it. The one thing that I put in my journal is the best thing that happened yesterday was, right. And so I'm in the dark hours, I think about the day prior and just try to figure out what was that thing that it was like, man, that was special. And then I got another section where I put, this happened that I didn't expect to happen or I didn't see coming, right? And they're neither good nor bad. They just are things that happen. And you can assign whatever meaning you want to them.
That's right.
But if you do those two things, and maybe there's some others, but for me, if you do those two things, there's no way that you don't smell the roses along the way on your journey.
That's right.
So often when we're apex performers, we're so focused on the destination that we miss the whole journey. And missing the journey and losing the people who are going on the journey with you so that you can get to the destination can be an absolute failure if you want those people at the destination with you.
Right.
So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're making your choices and make sure you're staying true to your priorities.
Absolutely. So I'm going to leave us with a quote, and this is from a famous football player, but most people don't know that this football player actually was way more successful in commercial real estate after his football days. And it's Roger Staubach. And he said this about confidence. Confidence doesn't come out of nowhere. It's a result of something. hours and days and weeks and years of constant work and dedication. And that's what it takes. Constant hours and days and weeks and years of work and dedication. But you can make that work joyful and fulfilled. Any last words from you, Jerome?
No. I'm gonna let it ride.
Let it ride. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Compression Podcast. And I will give another update on where we're at, $63.2 million. I love the fact that I have to look in a journal to find that number. That means my focus is on the right thing. I'm not focused on the number. I have to look because I know I said it earlier in the podcast, but I forgot it by the time that I was done talking today and we were done with the show. But 63.2 million is where we're at. We've got another closing happening today. I'm super excited to keep the journey going with you guys. If you feel inclined, please go share this with somebody. Jerome sent some messages about some folks sharing out some Finish Strong Fridays, which are so fun to put out there. I think people really love those episodes, but share it with somebody that's going through this journey together. Reach out, leave us some feedback. And if you want to leave us a review, that'd be great too. Super excited on where compression is going. And thank you for everybody that keeps reaching out. Until next time, guys, go live free. Hey, compressors, if something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com. And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.